Maharaj. Question from Gupta Govardhan. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit tells Shukadeva that he has only 7 days left before his death and asks Shukadeva for advice, what to do. From this very question, Srimad Bhagavatam is being unfolded. So finally, what is the exact practical recommendation, and what personally could you, Maharaj, respond to the same question?
Well, today is the appearance of Sripad Shankaracharya, who was the incarnation of Shiva, tasked with a very peculiar seva to delude people into embracing Mayavad philosophy. After Buddhism was established in India, Shankaracharya came and defeated Buddhism, but established his Mayavad. Then he's defeated by Ramanuja and Madhva, and this all made way for sort of a cycle to come for Mahaprabhu to express his philosophy, Achintya Beda Bed. But we're told in the Shastric language, Mayavadam asach chastram, Prachtanam bodham uchite, Maeva kapitam devi, Kalo brahmana rupina. Shiva is talking to Devi, his consort, and he says, Kalo brahmana rupina. In the Kali Yuga, I appears the Brahman Shankaracharya, and I preach Mayavad philosophy, which is bodham, prachtanam bodham. He said it's similar to Buddhism, here called covered Buddhism. It's actually Buddhism, but presented in another way, which means that the ultimate goal is self-annihilation, self-extinction. Right? And but with his emphasis on Brahma. Guru Maharaj said, he announces, there's so many things expressed in the Vedas and the Puranas and Upanishads. Now I'm going to sum it up in half a sloka. I don't even require 4 lines or 2 of 8. I don't even require, 16. I don't even require that. I will sum it up now in a line. Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. Brahma is the only truth. Jagan, this world, Mithya, it's all false. Everything here is false. And the only truth is Brahma. And all this, I have an individual identity, you have an individual identity, all false. Only one identity, Brahma. And when all these illusory individual identities dissolve, everything will just be Brahma. Right? But interestingly, Shankaracharya, or Shiva, he is expressing some lamentation on his part. That why do I get this seva? Why couldn't I be doing something else? Just like Maya, we're told sometimes she feels some shame or shyness to come in front of the Lord, thinking like, my seva is deluding people. So Shankaracharya is saying, not only am I deluding people, but with the ultimate delusion, where they're ahang brahmasmi, tattvamasi, they're thinking that they've become God. And we see also in the pastimes of Shiva, he's saying, expressing some lamentation that one of his names is Ashutosh, means he's easily pleased. So many aspirants with envisioning a mundane outcome, they approach him. And because they've sacrificed for him as their Lord, he's bound to reciprocate. And this brings him in collision with Krishna in various passages, in the defense of his disciples or so-called followers. So at different times, he's lamenting about this, but actually it has something to do really with the position of Shiva, that only really, truly can he do this seva. Because we hear in the Brahma Samhita, what is it? Kshiram Yata Vishesha Yogat Santayati. No, I can't think. It's a comparison of milk, Vishnu like milk, Shiva like yogurt. Saying milk can be transformed into yogurt, but once it's become yogurt, cannot go back into the milk situation. So Shiva's position, he has his own unique tattva. Not Vishnu tattva, not Jiva tattva. Although sometimes it's said the sum total of the jivas are within Shiva. Shiva impregnates the jivas into the womb of Prakriti. Told by the glance of Mahavishnu towards the material energy, his glance personifies as Shambhu Shiva, and he's impregnating the jivas into the material energy. So he has this function, this ability, on account of his innate position, to be between both of these worlds. The Vaikuntha world and Jara Jagat, the material world. And Srila Guru Maharaj points out actually 3 positions he can occupy. Bhog Shiv, Tyag Shiv, Bhakta Shiv. Bhog Shiv, what is it? Mayam tu Prakriti Vidyan, Mayinam tu Maheshwaram. The Lord of Maya. Master of Maya, servant of Vishnu. That's Bhakta Shiv. But in between, Tyag Shiv. Above the material world, on the outskirts of Vaikuntha. That interim position. So that puts him in a, he is poised to deal with the material energy, who is his consort. So Mahadev Shiva himself makes reference to this appearance in the Kali Yuga as Shankaracharya. And because, remember, Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna. It's one of Krishna's avatars. We need look no further than the Dash avatars of Jayadev Goswami, given in Gita Govinda, one of the 10 principal avatars of Krishna. We have to remember that. Buddha is Krishna appearing in a particular way, charming, irresistibly charming and attractive, but also with some agenda. That the Vedas, they're being misread, abused, to the degree that they allow some, there's allowance for meat consumption through sacrifice. But as often happens when people mindlessly follow some religious practice, in time it devolves into something else. So what was originally an allowance for meat consumption according to a particular time of month, sacrifice this animal in this way with these mantras, etc. Now there's just mass-scale animal slaughter going on, with people saying, if someone says, oh, this is objectionable, they say, no, it's given in the Vedas. The Vedas say it's okay, it's sanctioned there. And Buddha, one Buddha avatar, there are many, comes, and what is the essence of his philosophy? Ahimsa. Ahimsa sarva bhutani. You should not commit violence to any living being. That's what sarva bhutani means. No violence to any living being under any circumstances. And then someone said, but what about the Vedas? They make allowance for animal sacrifice. Buddha is saying, forget the Vedas. Just listen to me. You forget all about Veda. Put Veda on the shelf, forget about that. Just listen to what I have to say. He's Krishna, means he's irresistibly charming, attractive, the way he appears, the way he speaks. He convinces everyone, like, forget Veda and just follow what I say. And I say, don't commit, even if it's said in the Vedas that you could do it, forget that. This is new rules. No violence to any living being under any circumstances. And it's very successful. His avatar, all of India at that time becomes Buddhist. But it's part of a cycle. When Shankaracharya comes, he drives Buddhism beyond the borders of India, and his idea is, of course we must accept Vedas and what's given in the Vedas. So he drives Buddhism beyond the borders of India and reestablishes Veda culture, but with the emphasis on what is impersonal, not on the personal not overtly on the personality of Godhead, because of Buddhism, this tabula rasa, clean slate. He's bringing them back to Vedic culture, but with impersonal influence. Then Ramanuja comes and reestablishes the Vishnu Bhakti, Madhva, and then from Madhva line, the bridge, Madhavendra Puri, to Gaudiya Vaishnavaism of Sri Chaitanya Dev. But one of the works, one thing we should understand about Shankaracharya, he lived in the world for 33 years only. And he took sannyas when he was 8. So how serious he is and how potent he is. At 8 years old, and not some like sentimental kid taking, not like that. There's never been a sannyasi like him. Well, if we say Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Jati Rajaganai Parisevipam, but still to this day, Adi Shankara, the original Shankaracharya, how much revered he is in India. So he took sannyas at the age of 8. Seriously, gave up the world and everything, and at 8 years old became a sannyasi. Went to the Himalayas. He's studying deeply for maybe 4 years. And at the age of 12, he writes the Shariraka Bhasya, his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, commentaries on the Upanishads, and other things. Then later in life, after he's somewhat established, we're told in one incident that he, after having defeated some king, and everywhere he goes, no one can defeat him, no one can compete with him, neither defeat him. But there was one Rani, one queen, she wanted to hear his opinions on eroticism, on erotic potential. And he had no idea what this was. So he said, I can't enter this discussion It's beyond what I conceive. So there was a king who was, it came known to him, there was some king dying nearby. So he entered his body for some time. So, and revived the king's life so he could experience erotic affairs, and then that would put him in a position to comment on it. But he's saying, knowing though, from the scriptures, this illusion described, the most formidable illusion. Right? In the Bhagavatam, in one place it says, only Narayan Rishi is considered an incarnation of God, is free from the illusory sexual principle. So knowing that on the strength of scriptural understanding, that entering that position, maybe he won't be able to come out. It's so powerful. So he composed some slokas and gave to his disciples and told, if I'm lying there in a near comatose condition, his own body, while he is animating the king, then he gave them what's become known as the Moha Mudgara Stotram. Maya Moha Mudgara Stotram means the hammer for smashing illusion. So he said, then whisper these slokas into my ear, and upon hearing these slokas, the spell of Maya will break, and I'll come to consciousness. So in those slokas, they're very beautiful. Srila Gurudev liked them very much. He had one of them on the pillar right in front of his, where he would sit in Calcutta at his desk, and on the pillar right in front of him, he had this sloka printed out and posted there. I don't have it committed to heart, but I just remember the first line begins with Dina Jamino. And the reason I'm mentioning this one is in relation to this question about the Bhagavatam, because it actually parallels a verse in the Bhagavatam in the second canto where Sukadeva Goswami is answering the questions of Parikshit Maharaj. And what it means is it's saying, just as the sun's rising every day and setting every day, the seasons are coming and changing, like we're noticing that now, we're in the throes of another seasonal change. Weather conditions, historicity, whatever way you want to look at it, saying this is going on continuously in the world. And it parallels the Bhagavatam sloka that says, both with the rising and the setting of the sun, it's depleting the lifespan of those who do not spend their time engaged in Harikatha. Or what he told to Parikshit Maharaj, Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishwaro Hari Shrotavyas Kirtitavyas Cha Smartavyas Chech Tatha Bhayam. He said, if you want to overcome this fearfulness, that's an anxiety, that's the outcome of identifying with the material body and as oneself, and the karmic circumstance that you're enmeshed in, surrounded by. If you want to overcome the anxiety of existence, right, living in the world of mortality, knowing that inevitably you will die, you have a short time here, awaken as a human being to seriously take up the path of liberation. Saying, then my advice to you, and not just for you who are about to, you know you're going to die in 7 days, everybody here has an expiration date. You're fortunate in that you know when yours is. Otherwise, everyone is in the same situation. As Purikat Maharaj said, what is the duty of one in life specifically for one who is about to die? The answer is the same. This answer is the same for everyone, because everyone is in this situation. As we hear what was expressed by Yudhisthira Maharaj. He said, what was it? Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti jamalayam shesha stavram ischanti kim ascharja atakparam. When asked by the Lord of Death, what's the most astonishing thing in the world of the living? He said that everyone before us has died, around us everyone is dying, we ourselves certainly will die, but we're thinking we won't die. Kim ascharja. Ascharja means astonishing. What is more astonishing than that? We know this is inevitable. In the search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful, Srila Guru Maharaj is saying, come and face, don't be a coward. It's cowardice not to deal with this inevitable problem here for everyone, mortality. Right? We're living in the mortal world. It's one of the great themes of art. Right? Memento mori. Right? Death reminders. Art, and by art we mean literature, etc. They deal with this theme. Although many different stories might be told, as I mentioned, the master of the short story, we're told, is Anton Chekhov. Right? He's considered, by everyone, universally as the master of the short story. And writers think a short story is harder to write than a novel because there can be nothing extraneous in it. Everything that's within it has to be important, contribute to the overall story. And one such story that comes to mind is he's, by telling a story that everyone can relate to, he's capturing the attention of his audience, and then there's going to be a reveal along one of the great themes of literature. He's not just telling you some useless information. It may seem trivial. That's to, gain the confidence of the readers, right? To entice them, to seduce them into considering the reveal. So in this story, we're told a man in Petersburg of a certain age, he's at a party, there's a girl from a good family, and she's a good singer, and she's beautiful and everything, and he has some romantic designs on her. And she can understand that, and at this party, she slips a note to him that says, "Meet me in the graveyard at midnight." And that man goes home, but he's absorbed in thinking about this girl. But at the same time, he's thinking, I'm not such a fool. She's just playing with me, teasing me. I'm so foolish. I'm going to go in the middle of a graveyard. Everyone will laugh. Not an idiot. That's how he was thinking around 10:30. By around 11:30, he was thinking, what if she actually goes and I don't show up? The girl of my dreams. So he tells his driver to get, whatever they had, the horses and what do they call it, a Hanson or a little, chariot, to take him to the cemetery. He arrives a little bit before midnight, sees all the gravestones with their names and date, birth date, deceased. And the girl, she doesn't come. So I think, Doesn't Chekhov know how to tell a story? Why does everyone think he's a master of short story? This isn't even a good... You set up this whole thing and the girl doesn't even come. Left the readers with some anticipation. The girl's they're gonna meet, and they don't meet. Why did everyone say he's so good at writing short stories? Because while the man is there, the girl did not come and the event did not happen. The man's walking amongst the graves and he sees the headstones and they have the names of the men and women, when they were born, when they died, and it starts occurring to him that they were like me and this girl. They had their lives, their romantic aspirations, their hopes in life for coming together and achieving what they might. And it ended up here. Guru Maharaj liked to quote Gray's elegy from an English poet: the boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, all that beauty, all that wealth e'er gave, away to light the inevitable hour, the paths of glory lead but to the grave. So I think whoever it was and whoever they were, and whatever they achieved, it all ends up here. The path of glory leads but to the grave. Chekhov's lead character in this story, he's seeing the same thing. So it's memento mori, it's reminding him of impending mortality. It's one of the great themes of literature. And it's the beginning talk of Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. So he's telling him, whether you're going to die in 7 days, you've got another moment to live, 7 days, 7 years, 70 years. My advice is the same. Shrotavyas kirtitavyascha smartavyas chechtatabhayam. Under all circumstances, hear about, remember, chant, glorify Krishna, engage in Hari Kirtan. And the Bhagavatam, similar to the Shankara sloka, is saying, and if you don't do this, just that rising and setting of the sun, it's just, another minus on your life column. Another day of minus. Shankaracharya also, then on the male-female side of the equation, one of his verses, it says, Nari stana barana nabi desham drishtva maga mahavesham itam mangsha vishadi vikaram. He's saying the beauty, he mentions the woman here, but it's equally applicable. He's saying for the breast obsessed and navel gazers, he's saying it's mangsha vikar. Mangsha is the Sanskrit word for flesh or meat. He's saying, even they have that old saying, beauty's only skin deep. And like Guru Maharaj said in one of his talks with the devotees, he was talking about science. He said, the scientists, they have ruined the moon. He said the moon, which was the subject of romantic poetry and the honeymoon of the newly married, and he said the scientists went there and they came back with the dust and the rocks and saying, nothing to see here. He's saying, so these scientists, they spoiled the moon. He said, rather leave us with our imagination. We prefer that. And then he gave the example of female beauty, and he said, should we limit the female beauty, he said, to what science can discover on the dissection table? If they cut this and say, look, they peel back the skin and say, look, see what it is? Why do you get so excited? And I told that Jonathan Swift, in his book Gulliver's Travels, everyone's most familiar with Gulliver's Travel to the land of the Lilliputians, where he's like a giant and they're all real tiny. But in the next tour, he goes to a land where he's very tiny and they're all giants. And he's gifted to one girl, he's given as a present, like, on her 16th birthday or something. And she likes to play with him and put him on her chest, and he sees a breast that to him is like, it's like 6 meters wide, and and he's like, oh my God. And so the book is, remember, he's through humor, he's saying, so those who are so fascinated by this, if you could see this from another perspective, you might be horrified. So we think, oh, that's Jonathan Swift. Interesting. Shankaracharya gives a similar version in his Moha Mudgara Stotram. He's saying, it's all this physical beauty is just the moksha vikar, the transformation of flesh. So he's trying, you can see, it's called the hammer for smashing illusion. It's like, a slap to the face to wake up and look at things beyond superficial appearance. Right? So many verses are given there. And each one of them, we see some parallel in the Bhagavad and other teachings. But what's most interesting, we have to say, is the first verse, which says, it's the first verse, but it's like also the conclusion. It's the summary of everything. Right? And also in a line, I think, the proper balance to Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. He says in his prayer, to the astonishment of everyone, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Mudha Mate. Mudha means ass. You asses. He's saying you should worship Govinda 3 times. Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Mudha Mate. Sang prapte, sang nihite, nahi nahi rakshati, dukrin karane. He's talking about he's making an appeal particularly to the scholarly section, because dukrin is a reference to Sanskrit and Sanskrit interpretation, and based on grammar and different ways of interpreting. And he's saying, you're stupid asses if you think this is going to help you at the end of life. Rather, you should worship Govinda. Just like Gurudev used to tell the story of the Sanskrit scholar who, the word for tiger is Viagra. Right? Vyag. But one meaning of that is like who smells, like who engages in, who smells. Like that. So this scholar, on the basis of his interpretation of this word, he was not afraid to approach the tigers. He said, because they're just smelling. No real danger there. And then the time came, and then he's being devoured by a tiger, and he says, oh yeah, remember, there's another meaning. That they're not just smelling. Sometimes they're also like devouring. That's true, and there's another level of understanding. So Shankaracharya is saying, you fools and asses, this is how you spend your time interpreting things. But this won't help you. Raksha means protection. This won't save you at the time of death. How should you direct yourself? Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Mudhamate. Just worship Govinda. So for all this speaking to the contrary, really this is his final advice. And we know, and Brihad Bhagavatamritam, when Narada is visiting Shiva on the advice of Brahma and offering so much praise to him, and Shiva, as a humble Vaishnava, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, he's deflecting that praise and trying to present himself in another way. At one point, he says to Narada, I'm such a shameful person. Do you know I wanted to be greater than the Lord? I expressed that aspiration. I wanted to be greater than the Lord. Such a shameful man. And Sanatana Goswami is explaining in his Tika, saying what he's really saying here is that the position of the devotee is supreme. And he only wants to be a devotee of the Lord. So he's saying, and my aspiration was to be greater than the Lord. To mislead people and think, oh, such a horrible person, a shameful man. But really he's pointing to a more subtle truth about the power of devotion and the greatness of Krishna's devotees. So really, Guru Maharaj says in some places that a real devotee, they should not be concerned about their own advancement, their own progress, even within Krishna consciousness. Rather, they should surrender themselves to be used by the Lord for whatever his purpose is. That's Sharanagati. As long as there's some conception of gain, remuneration, positive outcome, there's some motive there. Saying, but real Sharanagati, which surrender, which is the way to actually capture the Lord, which gives everything, Bhagavat Bhakti Tat Sarvam Itut Sri Javiderapi Kainkarjam Krishna Padaika Shreyatam Sharanagati. As Guru said, Sharanagati is cash in the hand. It's not a post-dated check or any such thing. It's cash in the hand. That surrender should be based upon just offering yourself to the Lord to be used as he wants to use you. When Guru Maharaj gave a commentary, like we just had Easter, right, a couple of weeks ago, correct? And part of that pastime is the betrayal of Christ by Judas. So Guru Maharaj gave his own interpretation. And he said, who can be entrusted with this sort of seva? The seva of betrayal. He said, only someone who's actually very dear and trustworthy to the Lord himself. You think, so after the betrayal, 30 pieces of silver, etc., Christ is going up to Gethsemane, not Gethsemane, but Calvary. He's already been in Gethsemane. Anyway, when he's carrying the cross, and we're told at one point Judas is in the crowd, and they make eye contact, and Judas goes off and hangs himself. So Srila Guru Maharaj said, what was in that eye contact? He said that Christ is appealing to Judas for forgiveness and saying, I used you as a betrayer in my pastimes, and your name will be black for all time to come. So forgive me for using you this way. And Guru Maharaj saying, and Judas saying, he's asking me for forgiveness. I who betrayed him, that touched him in such a way, he went off and hung himself. So even the apparent role of opposition And the pastimes of the Lord can only be played by the qualified. Right? So, to this day, there's Shankaracharya, they're like the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites. And Shankaracharya, he's the undisputed guru of the opposition. So we recognize him. And also we know, is Mahadev Shiva playing a particular role? And when knowing that Gurudev liked this sloka so much, we requested it be put on the samadhi. And one of the old devotees from the Mat came, and when he saw that sloka, he said to me, why has this been, he was a little upset. He said, why is this sloka being put here? Shankaracharya, who's the leader of the opposition against the Vaishnavas. But two reasons. One is, first and foremost, Gurudev liked it. That's enough. But secondly is because he's Shankaracharya. He's one of the most famous Sampradaya gurus in India. You have Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, like that. So, if the leader of the opposition is saying something that is in consonance with Vaishnavism or Krishna consciousness, then that's good. And why do you think that Gurudev liked this so much? So when the Vaishnavas read what he's given, it gives great joy to them because it's there because of interpretation. Sambandha Gyan allows for proper interpretation. Right? So when they read what he's about, they can extract from their Krishna conception proper. And knowing that Gurudev liked it so much, and he's the famous Shankaracharya, one sloka from him will be there also for the glory of Srila Govinda Maharaj. Hare Krishna. And what was that question originally about death, 7 days death? Read it again.
What was the exact practical recommendation given by, what is your personal response could be? Yeah.
Of course, we think the same thing, that when one realizes in time, anything that's not directly Krishna consciousness or indirectly in support of Krishna consciousness is a waste of time and energy that can never be regained. Like that saying about, all the money in the world cannot buy back a moment of time. So when time is wasted on things that, two things, either direct Krishna consciousness or indirectly in support of Krishna consciousness, it's a waste of time and energy. Any other question?
Another question from Gupta Govardhan. We all have our ups and downs. How to share your inspiration with others when you are high?
When you are high? I'm high on the Lord, the Most High. You mean when you're up? No, there's no plan for that. Devotees, they don't think of themselves as qualified. If you look at the pastimes, particularly of Mahaprabhu, all of his devotees are Mahabhagatas of the highest order, they're eternal associates, everything. And very often when they're asked to express something, they begin almost invariably by saying that they're not qualified to say anything. That who are they? If Anantadev with his innumerable heads has been praising you since the beginning of time, what can I say? Or, my Lord, you alone are capable of properly praising yourself, as you do through the Vedas. And their praise always begins in some similar way to that. First, decrying their own lack of qualification. But at the same time, if the devotees, they just read something very nice, right? And automatically the tendency to express that and share with another arises. That's the way it should be. Spontaneous sharing, but not programmed. Right? You cannot plan, cannot force that. Guru Maharaj quotes Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying, it, like lightning. You never know when lightning is going to strike, where lightning is going to strike. But when it does, everything momentarily becomes illumined, and then it goes back. And he's saying it's like that. And in addition to that, he says, then if you try to force that, it goes, not only will it not appear, but it goes away. Because it should never be something from us as the initiators. Rather, we're interested in what comes down from the upper world through agency into this plane. That's proper. Right? Amnaya prahat tattvam harimiha paramam sarva shakti rasabdyam. Revealed truth. Guru Maharaj makes an interesting point in discussing the word rishi. The Sanskrit word for creation is sarshti. And the rishis, who are the vehicles for shastric expression, it never says that they created something. Like they're the author in the sense of creator of a particular work. But he said that actually the very word rishi, based upon drishi, which means to see, like we say darshan, darshina. Darshan means seeing or a way of seeing. It's also the Vedic word for philosophy, like sat darshan. Because philosophy, it's a particular way of seeing. That's why we're saying the artist project is similar to the spiritual project. Ajnanatimrandasya gyananjana salakaya chaksuram militam jena tasmai Sri Gurave namaha. Giving a new way of seeing, removing the cataracts of acquired prejudice, acquired tendency, the cataracts of ignorance, and giving one a new perspective, a new way of seeing. That's the function of the rishis. So what they're seeing and observing in the conscious plane, it's that type of seeing, again, right? Then that concept, that mantra is passing through them, from the upper world, through them into this plane. So we will say, well, we're not that. That's the great rishis. But we're not interested in anything less than that. So sometimes, by the grace, Guru and Vaishnav, Sadhu and Shastra, they leave some impression upon our hearts, and the heart expresses that impression and shares with others. It should be that sort of a transaction, not the rote recitation of rudimentary principles, but we want a living thing, something with some life. Prana ache jar sehe tu prachar. Srila Saraswati Thakur. One who's got life, they can preach. One who preaches gets life. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. One candle can light another candle. But someone may be in the very down position and some inspiration comes to them. That's also possible. At a point of abject hopelessness and desperation, some, if they remain faithful, then something comes. This is hinted at in the nutshell sloka of the Gita. Jnana-dipena bhashvata. What's the beginning? Te sham evanukampartam aham jnanajam tama. Nashayan bhavasto jnana-dipena bhashvata. Jnana deep means the light of knowledge. So Guru said, it can't mean Gyan, what Gyan ordinarily means. This is the Bhagavad Gita, it's about bhakti, devotion. So how can Krishna say, when my devotees are in a very, state of ignorance? I mean, one way you could look at it is like, they're in this state of, abject ignorance and darkness, and at that time I give them the light of Gyan. Really? Would Krishna do that? So Guru said, then it can't mean Gyan in the ordinary sense. What it means is, if we look at it on a higher level, when the devotees are in, what is the darkness or the difficult position for them? Separation from Krishna. And when it reaches a certain stage of intensity and heart necessity, Krishna is saying, at that time, I reveal myself to them. I appear to them. So we'll think, well, that's the high devotees, it's a high plane, the highest plane of aspiration, but it must have some relevance for devotees of all stages. So for the Bhakti Vinod Thakur devotee, real-time live streaming Leela, the pastimes of Mahaprabhu of Krishna. But for the sincere aspiring servitors, in their moment of down, darkness, despair, Krishna, if they're sincere, they don't go away, they don't seek another shelter, then Krishna reveals some aspect of himself to them to reassure them that they're going in the right direction. Durgam patastat kaviyo vedanti, the spiritual path is plagued with obstacles. To continue, he'll reveal something into the heart of the devotee that is divine, and on account of it, it's unmistakably divine. It gives them some reassurance, encouragement, and inspiration to continue. So even from that position. So there can be no stereotype about Krishna revelation. That, only in the up position, then in the down position. No, at any time. That's up to Krishna. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam. We were just talking about Putana. Does that sound like a good time for revelation? Approaching Krishna with murderous intent. But that Kim ascharja atak, no, what is it? Kamvadalum sharanam brajema. Saying, what a merciful, someone's approaching with murderous intentions and they get liberated, elevated to the mother position. What kind of Lord is Krishna? So no stereotype shall we have about when revelation will come, when it may not come. Because the Lord himself is saying in the Gita, I bring light in the darkness also, in that position as well. Ananyas chintayantamam yejana paryupasate. Esham Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. Elsewhere, where he says that whatever deficiency a devotee might have, apparently, I compensate that personally. So our position is fortunate by the grace of our Guru Varga, the Vaishnavas, the sadhus, and the revealed truth in the form of scriptures. As to collect an inheritance, the minimum requirement is to be alive. Right? If you're dead, you don't get anything. Minimum requirement is you're alive. So if we stay faithful and remain in the association of devotees, we'll be kept alive. And Krishna guarantees his protection, shelter, everything. Hare Krishna.